And certainly going to be a long-term future talking point because, you know, if we get to keep our jobs for a couple of years here, hopefully be talking about this one as well. That being the future of esports pros and pro players in general for gaming, do they offer enough to their organizations? Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching are fans of creators and streamers and pro players who compete for organizations.
As are we.
Yes, massive fans. I'm sure you guys know that of a lot of people out there. It was actually SPUNJ from the Counter-Strike scene, a talent, caster, commentator, desk talent from Counter-Strike, coming out in the past week or so and making a great point on an HLTV Confirmed podcast where he talks about, especially CS pros, but this goes to all pros out there, potentially not offering back enough to the esports organizations, especially right now. With all of the inflated salaries across so many games out there, we have pro players making anywhere from, I don't know, as low as 60, but upwards of $500,000 plus per year just to compete. And so he stresses, if you're not making content, you're not enough of a value to an org right now.
Absolutely, and I think it's an excellent point that a lot of people can agree with. They can see the logic there because when he says stuff like you're not making content, he doesn't mean showing up for a picture here or there or showing up when the company's releasing a new clothing line. He means like actively going out there and promoting both yourself and the org and really making content that draws people to you as well as like puts more eyes on the brand overall. And we see so few creators,
so few, I should say,
or so few pros that are really pursuing the creator angle like actively as well.
Yeah, and I truly do think that's why we're seeing, you know, even despite pandemic and all of this, we saw Fortnite organizations or esports organizations continue to sign Fortnite players because there were so many players that were making content and competing. When you have weekly cash cups and all of these, you know, high dollar amount, weekly or daily cups for Fortnite, you have players who are not only streaming, making content, and competing. So, of course, if you're NRG Esports, you're going to be like, yo, let's sign some Fortnite guys. Meanwhile, they left Counter-Strike because we can't afford to pay those guys salaries that are higher than our Fortnite guys, and they're not making content besides just competing in matches. And so SPUNJ goes on to say, you showing up for a match is not enough exposure. Yes, currently in Counter-Strike, even further so, it's oversaturated, so not as many viewers, right? So if you're, you know, you're simple, you're showing up for Na'Vi and you're playing a match, cool. You're doing your job, but you're not going above and beyond. And I would say vice versa. In these contracts, a lot of organizations are not requiring it of their players.
Of course.
So go for it. But it makes you think of someone like Hex, who time and time again, or Nadeshot has said, storylines, content, build your brand, and help your org help you, right? So your organization's paying you, but I think all of these pros, and a lot of us can agree, these pros still have a lot to offer.
Absolutely, and I think it's crucial to really take into account how much having pros on your roster who are also great personalities out there making content has done for raising the value of companies like 100 Thieves, like NRG. I don't think the Huntsmen would be in the place they were right now if they didn't have a roster full of very, very personable people who are out there making content.
Very true.
They're competing at a high level, definitely. They've got that on lock, but they're also bringing all this other stuff to the table.
It's just, it really goes to show what Optic did so early on to build their characters. It is so rare. And I hope that if any esports orgs are listening right now, and to all the fans out there as well, I'm sure you guys want more content from your favorite players, right? As we all do. You have to start sometime.
Absolutely.
If you want to be where Optic is now with the Huntsmen, I mean, what they have done, it's just, in the first season, it's nuts.
Yeah, right?
You don't see it.
Easily, I'd say, the most recognizable name in the CDL right now.
I mean, you can look at a guy like Scump or a guy like Formal or Karma, any of the former Optic guys and what they are. A guy like Scump is a complete rarity, but if you want to be the future Scump, you got to start now.
Yeah.
And I truly do think we see it with the Fortnite creators out there.
100% agree.
Their follower counts, their viewer counts, their impressions are so nuts because they are doing everything possible in their power.
I feel like that's so much of the reason that Fortnite was ever successful is that pros, so much of like that whole mentality in that scene was, if I'm a pro, I'm making content. If I'm not always making content, I'm at least putting out a video here or there. I'm doing something.
And it almost became tough to dissect who is a pro and who is a streamer.
Yeah, just like a content creator.
At one point, another Myth was a pro. Ninja was a competitor. You know, all Nick Merckx, these guys who are not pro players in the Fortnite scene, people didn't know what to call. Like, were you a streamer? Are you a creator? Are you a pro? Because they were doing it all. And so I really do think that could be the future. You got to start at some point. we understand it's tough. It is tough
definitely.
as an esports player and pro to get views and to grab an audience. It is so hard.
Absolutely.
But you got to start at one point or another. And so super curious what you guys think about this. Are esports pros offering enough back to their esports organizations? I feel like we could have gone on forever.